All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're stepping into a world that's, well, it's woven from pure philosophical dread and this deeply unsettling atmosphere. It's a reality that makes you question the very nature of being itself.
And right off the bat, we get this pretty cold welcome from a creature called the Other Side Beast. There's no comfort here, no warm hello. It's just this immediate sense of displacement that tells you you're somewhere you really shouldn't be. Talk about setting a tone.
So, that makes you ask the obvious question, right? Where on earth are we? But see, you're not going to find this place on any map. It's more like a state of existence, a landscape made entirely of concepts and feelings. This place is called the Beyond, and it's not physical in any way we'd understand. It's a realm where forgotten thoughts just sort of fester and grow. It's where dreams have gone to die. And the only direction you can go here is down. Decay isn't just a part of life, it's the fundamental law of disreality. So, let's officially step into the Beyond. It's this fascinating paradox, a place where things only ever get worse. And yet, it's not silent. Oh no, it speaks, it complains, it tries to make sense of its own decay. And the ones doing all this talking, it's not just what you'd call living beings. In this next part, we're going to see how consciousness here is just this wild, chaotic force that can pretty much inhabit anything. So how is that even possible? Well, according to a Gothic statue, yeah, you heard me right, a statue, it's the pure random chaos of the universe that gives it the ability to think and speak. Consciousness isn't biological here. It's just a strange side effect of the cosmos. And what's really wild is the sheer variety of who or what is speaking. It's not just statues. We hear from a sphinx, a frog that's thinking about thermodynamics. Heck, even the moon might decide to chime in. The rules for who gets to be self-aware have been completely thrown out the window. So here is the underlying principle of it all. In the Beyond, nothing ever truly disappears. Everything that has ever existed, every single person, every object, every element, it's all still around in some state. Maybe they're like a dimmed candle, kind of faded, but they're there. And a thought that's been etched onto a tomb connects this idea so poetically. It basically asks, isn't every single breath we take, every bit of chemistry that keeps us going, just another step in a constant march toward death? This idea that to exist is to be in a constant state of dying. Which brings us to the real kicker, the agony of being aware. Because in a world where everything thinks and everything is in a state of decay, being conscious isn't a gift. It's a profound, inescapable burden. It is a weight. The mushrooms are a perfect example of this existential trap. You've got one mushroom suffering the absolute agony of solitude, and then you have a whole cluster of them complaining about how annoying it is to be stuck together. It doesn't matter if you're alone or in a group, the dread is constant. There's no way out. And the inhabitants themselves, they get it. They understand the horror of their own condition. The mushrooms even suggest that having to be two contradictory things at once, being both a plant and an animal with both kinds of awareness, well, that's the very definition of madness. And in a world just soaked in anxiety, fear isn't just an emotion. It's an actual being. There's this clown doll who claims to be fear itself, made manifest, an entity that can be anywhere at any time because the potential for fear is absolutely everywhere. Another one of these tomb inscriptions just captures this feeling perfectly. It asks, what happens when your waking life is pretty much indistinguishable from your nightmares? The line between fiction and fact just dissolves, and the only thing holding it all together is a thin, fragile thread of desperation. And all of this dread, this anxiety, it all leads to the most dominant theme in this world, annihilation. But we're not talking about something that's just waiting at the end. It's an active atmospheric presence, an instinct for destruction. A dragon describes it as a scent you can smell in the air. Annihilation here is a palpable force, a creature that's been projected out of the collective psyche, built from all the myths and symbols of destruction that our minds have ever cooked up. So where does this overwhelming force even come from? Well, a creature called a worm asks this seemingly random scientific question that turns out to be the key to this entire world's cosmology. And the answer lies in this core piece of mythology, the inverted dragon's theory. The idea is that all of existence is just a doomed hourglass.
And its damnation was set. The timer started right at the very beginning of the universe, at the moment when all the antimatter mysteriously disappeared.
Okay, let's break this down because it's a huge idea. Step 1, antimatter vanishes. Step 2, but its purpose, its instinct to annihilate, doesn't. It gets left behind and passed down through time like a genetic trait. So step 3, this instinct for destruction becomes a fundamental part of existence itself, hardwired into us before we even have a choice or a will of our own. And the result of this cosmic inheritance? Well, it's devastating. It means every society, every conscious being, is the heir to this ancient destruction. The very moment something becomes aware, its own personal hourglass gets flipped and the countdown begins, powered by an ancient drive toward nothingness that it can't escape. Which brings us to our final and, let's be honest, pretty grim section. If destruction isn't just inevitable but is an inherited instinct, then what's the point of any of it? The inhabitants here are left with no choice but to face that inevitable void. A character called the Shade puts it in the most chilling way I can imagine. It says the void isn't some distant place you're trying to avoid. It's the very air you breathe. Escape is literally impossible because you're already surrounded by it, completely immersed in it. And this feeling is universal here. You get a cockroach calling hope a delusion, a ghost who thinks giving up is just rejoining the natural order of things, a mosquito that argues a universe without any life would just be better, and the Shade, well, it says optimism is just another word for illusion. It's an entire chorus of absolute total despair. So, if this is existence, a chaotic awareness that's programmed for its own self-destruction, what final questions are even left to ask? Well, we're left with a barrage of them. Ultimately, does anything matter? If you had the choice, would you willingly exist? In the face of all this, why do you persist? And then, the final, most haunting question of all, would life not have been better never to have existed in the first place?